Thank you, Renee. And first of all, thank you so much for coming out. We know this is a project that gains a lot of attention. As you know, when you have a project that's worth $3.6 billion, that makes a lot of it makes for a lot of interest. So today we just want to give you an update where we are on a contract by contract basis. We're going to talk a little bit about our resiliency study, where we are on that and what that actually means. Show you some project photos, talk about where we are, some contracts that we have coming up to be advertised and awarded. We're almost there. We have 17 total contracts and we have 3 more to go, with one big one left that's out for advertisement right now. And then we'll talk about some of your community concerns that we have heard over the last several months while doing construction and what we're doing and explain, how we're trying to address some of your concerns. So first we'll get into the resiliency study, and this is the resiliency study. We have the project that's going on right now in West Shore Lake Pontchartrain, but there's a secondary study that's going on to add resiliency. So we're already thinking about what's next. Typically, when a resiliency study is commissioned, it is to make an existing project more resilient. In this particular case, we have been authorized and funded to do the resiliency study even before the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project is completed. So as you can see here, normally if you know a little bit about the Corps of Engineers and our studies, we have a 3x3x3 process, $3 million, 3 years, and 3 levels, meaning local, division, and headquarters of a team in which we call our vertical team. But this study is a little bit different. We had to ask for more money. This study is going to be now close to 6 years. It's going to cost about $6 million. So we're in a process of getting the resiliency study and that extra funding approved. It's currently now on its way up to the Assistant Secretary of the Army, but we are still working on the study. It's just asking for the extra. So we're still on track and on schedule with that resiliency study to figure out what else can we do to make the project even more resilient than we have here today. Hold on, did I skip? Okay, so as I said, and I'm not gonna go through each and every contract. I would just say in general, like I said, we have 17 total contracts. 14 of them are currently underway. Good news story, the first one here in WSLP 110, that contract is essentially complete and we're waiting on grass to grow. So that's a good news story. That is close down on the west end in Garyville, near the Garyville area. So that's a good news story. As you can see, some of the other projects that are going on is anywhere from we just getting started to 4 or 5% complete, all the way up to about 65% complete. If you made me put a number on it and how far we are overall for the entire project, I would probably say we're upper 20s. As you know, if you don't know, this project is scheduled to be physically complete, which is the last contract, the big pump station that I'll talk about later, is scheduled to be complete in 2028. Right? 2029, so yeah, 2028. I got my phone of friend project managers right there with me. And so this is just more construction contract. And just, for those who don't know, what does West Shore consist of? Most people think it's just levees, but it's levees, flood walls, pump station, drainage structures, drainage canals, culverts, all working together to provide risk reduction for 60,000 citizens in St. John, St. Charles, and St. James parishes, right? So all of those things working together. And I know you're going to say, well, what's going on in Garyville? If that's complete, do we have protection in Garyville? And the answer to that is no. You don't have risk reduction system until you have a whole closed system. So we just want to make sure we get that message across every chance we get. So still, when there's an event and you live close to that feature that might be completed, don't get the false sense of security that I'm protected because, that piece of the alignment is complete. You won't have complete system, like we said, until around 2028, 2029. So during the construction, we hear a lot. I can tell you, we hear a lot from our councilmen. We get a lot of questions on Facebook, all social medias. People call, and we hear all the concerns. And one of the biggest concerns that we hear is flooding. So we know that last year there was, a few big rain events that happened that caused some flooding in the parish. And of course, when you're getting started to do levee projects, the thought is, you're causing the flooding. So we just wanted to assure the citizens of all three parishes that what we do and while we're building our project, all of the models, the construction sequencing, everything that we do is not inducing any flooding. Just so you understand what happens, we have even when this system is complete, the system is open with drainage structures, drainage canals. Every time it rains, the water that is conveyed to one of those channels and ultimately gets out through reserve relief, or through the I-55 where we're going to have those two pump stations. When the system is completely closed, those two big outfall canals essentially is what they are, is where we get the water up and outside of the system. But that only happens when the system is closed. During 99% of the time when there's no storm event, we have natural gravity drainage as it is right now. But instead of just sheet flow, it's being conveyed through these interior drainage canals. So when we build a levee, on the protected side where we are, there's a drainage canal that we build. The water goes into those drainage canals. Instead of sheet flowing out into the swamp, it goes to one of these two outfall canals where we build in the pump station or through one of the drainage structures. So that's how the system functions when it's normally working 99% of the time, of course, and we have a 100-year or 1% storm, which is why we say it's a 100-year event, right? And it's working like normal. So we heard the concerns. We actually went back to our hydraulics team and had them to confirm the modeling that they had previously run, to say we actually looked at some specific events that happened last year and confirmed what we thought, that our project did not induce flooding. And the biggest thing is our construction sequencing. So when we award a contract, we don't just allow a contractor to go build however they want, whenever they want. There's very specific construction sequencing where they have to make sure they build drainage canals and the culverts, keep those things clear so the water can be conveyed before we can build any structures that may potentially block any drainage. I can tell you, I see some of the same faces when I was at we did a presentation at the other school in Garyville, and I learned a whole lot while I was there from actually some of the community members. One gentleman said he'd been in the community over 57 years, and he gave me a whole lot of information and educated me a lot. And I think a lot of folks in the room, one of the biggest things is keeping the railroad culverts clean and that sort of thing. And if you've ever had to deal with the railroad company, that's a difficult task. But I understand that the parish has been doing some things to try to, work with them to help on some of those efforts. And you know, our ongoing efforts is to make sure that we are holding our contractors that are building these construction projects to the standard that to the specs that they're supposed to be, making sure they keep these drainage canals clear, making sure they stay building in the sequencing that we prescribe that they do. And of course, keep on feeding us the information, continue to contact us on Facebook, so when you do have a concern, they get those to our team really quickly, and then we can get them, you know, addressed as fast as possible. So, you know, we just have some construction photos here of where we're going. I believe the 102 project contract is my favorite contract. That is the contract that you see first coming from west to east on I-10. That's the 102 contract. That one has levee embankment. It has a flood wall. This one is actually going to be underneath I-10. It has a drainage structure. It has a little bit of, this project represents a little bit of everything in West Shore except a pump station, but it has pretty much everything else. So cool, just a cool story I like to talk about here. If you look at some of the durations of these contracts, we get this question, why does it take so long? You know, levee work is long, it's hard, we got weather. This one in particular, we know when you drive sheet pile, you have big cranes and that's normal. Well, you can't get a crane above I-10, right? So we actually have to drive those sheet piles anywhere from 5 to 8 feet at a time, weld, drive a little bit, weld, drive a little bit. On this special power drive machine is probably one of 10 in the world. So a lot of interesting stuff going on at 102, which is why it's one of my favorite projects. And the rest of these, I'll just go through just showing some photos of, you know, progress photos. The photo on the left is the wick drains, which again, this is another a nice to know feature. This we're building on what we call virgin swamp, right? It's very, 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 very hard to do the geotechnical, what's the word I'm looking for? Principle, the geotechnical elements out there is very tough. It's swamp. So we have to get strength in the base of the levee before we can actually build on top. So those little white strip drains over there called wick drains, they get the water up and out. And as we get the water out of the system, the base of the levee constantly gets gain strength. And then we have hold periods. So we go, I don't know if you guys saw the story we had on Fox 8. We build a levee and then we do absolutely nothing for months and months at a time because we're letting the levee settle, it's building strength. Then we go back, we build more embankment, we wait for months and months, and then we do it again. That's why some of these contracts are as long as 1,500 days long to make sure that we are gaining the strength to build these levees. Another feature, we'll post things on social media, on Facebook, and we'll use all of these technical terms. What are they talking about? A little pro tip, if you use the Meta AI feature and you press and it says, what are wick drains or what is whatever it is that we're talking about, it's amazing how accurate they'll explain to you what's going on in layman's terms, so to speak. So I've checked it a few times to see if it was really good, and I believe it's good. So if you ever see anything on our Facebook, which we have, the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain Facebook page, make sure to use that feature if you ever want to get some more information about anything. And that's the 106, that's the other end where it crosses I-10, and we thought that was a real cool picture when it snowed, the 130-year event on 106 there. And that's also 107. 109, this is one of them that just got kicked off last fall. As you can see, we've done clearing and grubbing. You see some smoke there. We're burning at 109, and we're moving. As you can see, it's connected to 110 there. It's pretty much, that's the one that I said is pretty much finished, and we're just waiting on grass to grow at this point. The 114A project, this is the drainage structure project. If some of you recall, we had 4 pump stations originally in this project, but in an attempt to save money and to be more efficient in our design, it was then determined that 2 pump stations was more than adequate, just increasing the size of those pump stations instead of having 4 smaller pump stations. It was more efficient, more beneficial, and cost effective to do it that way. So the 14A contracts are 2 drainage structures. So they don't have any pumping capacity, but it's a drainage structure, again, to get the water out of the system. So those are the 2 pump stations that we're talking about. So 114 got advertised last month. We are expecting to award in June. That process is going along really, really well. Contractor questions were due yesterday. I think we got 131 questions, which sounds like a lot, but for a pump station that's going to be between $200 and $300 million, that's not a lot. So what that tells us is we probably have a really good set of plans and specs if you don't get a lot of questions. And just a point of information, if you know anything about the PCCP project in New Orleans, and there was a lot of issues with corrosion and that sort of thing, the same designer who did that pump station is doing this pump station. So we have a ton of lessons learned. All of that information that we learned from PCCP, we incorporated in this project. So we have some real exotic metals and all of these things so that we won't experience some of the issues that they experience on PCCP. So that's a good point of information that I wanted to share with you tonight. And then we have 2 more projects, 2 more contracts, 103A and 110A. Those are both small flood wall projects at utility crossing. So we have the 110 that's almost completed, but there's this one section that's not. Well, why do you leave that out? Because there's a flood wall and there's pipelines going right through where the levee built. So you can't put a levee on top of a pipeline corridor, right? So another cool thing that we do at the Corps, these utility pipelines, they go through our flood wall. So again, when you're working with 4, 5, 10, 8 utility owners, that's tough. So we go out and we move out on the levee work while we work through getting these utility agreements. Fortunately, that's pretty much done. We're almost there with most of these contracts, and we on track. And that is the last 2 contracts that we have going on. So, and Brad will talk about these. So when we get to the Marpar Diversion project, these were originally scheduled to be designed and constructed by us. But of course, we have the Marpar Diversion project, which Brad will explain, first of its kind. That project is being used as mitigation for this project. And because it was more efficient, it's along the channel. CPRA, our non-federal partners in this, they're actually designing and constructing 111, 112, and 113 on our behalf, but they will get credit for that. But same standards, same core standards, same review process. It's no different than if we were doing it. They're just doing it because it's more efficient for them to do because they have to work in that area anyway. I know this is a St. John parish, but we want to talk a little bit about the St. James project. As we know, the St. James portion of the project was authorized, but what was authorized is not quite what the locals want in the parish. It was not quite what we want. So while we're working through what we call a EDR, engineer design review, to again, just like we did with the pump station to get from 4 to 2, we know that there are some features of the St. James contract that no matter what we select, is going to be built anyway, so we were authorized by our leadership and command to go start those projects. So if you are from St. James Parish, here's the two fuchsia sections at the ring levees that no matter what alignment we wind up building, those features are going to be built anyway, so we started on that. And this is just a map of the entire West Shore Lake Pontchartrain system here. If you're not familiar with it, if you ever want to know what is he talking about, where are the levees, what's these numbers, the contract numbers, if you go to our West Shore Lake Pontchartrain website, this map is there, and that'll orient you to be able to know exactly what levees and what numbers are close to where you live. This is the best map, I believe, to do that. And this is the entire map that includes St. James. But like I said, we are not going to build exactly what's here. We're trying to come up with a better solution to build St. James because they were using 3127 as a risk reduction feature. But when we do the geotech analysis and did soil borings, it wasn't conducive for actually protecting from a storm event. So we've gone with another alignment there. And with that, I will turn it over to Brad to talk to you about the Marpar Diversion Project. Sorry. Yep.
Okay, while they're swapping microphones out and everything, we want to recognize State Senator Greg Miller, who's in the audience. He's stepping in here on he's here tonight.
Forward back, right?
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for being here.
All right, thanks, Jeff. That was a good intro for me to kick things off. So, like Jeff said, I'm Brad Miller. I'm a project manager with CPRA, and I oversee the Marpar Diversion Project. The Marpar Diversion Project is to convey water from the Mississippi River into about 45,000 acres of the Marpar Swamp. The project area is bounded on the west by Blind River, the north by the lake, and the east by Reserve Relief Canal. It crosses River Road, two railroads, Airline Highway, and terminates just north of I-10. Just a quick history of the swamp. Most of you all probably know that the swamp isn't what it was even 50 years ago, but really it suffered from altered hydrology, saltwater intrusion, the lack of regeneration, and believe it or not, it started 200 years ago. The Mississippi River is what feeds the swamp, and it first got cut off from the river back in 1814 by Andrew Jackson. In 1826, the state closed off Bayou Manchac permanently. And then we all know about the Great Flood of 27, the levees on the Mississippi River being built. That's kind of the nail in the coffin for the swamp. And it also got clear cut at the turn of the century. So it's been a tough run for the swamp, but fortunately, we got a great project to reinvigorate it. And here's what's happening in the swamp. That's the 45,000 acres on the left. And there's still a lot of trees left, but unfortunately, it's not too healthy. So the dark green on here is what a real healthy swamp looks like. The light green is a intermediate kind of open canopy swamp, and the yellow is covered in marsh, which is really bad. So the project is aimed to get the sediment, nutrients, fresh water, flowing water from the river to turn that light green to dark green. And this is just a typical cross-section of before West Shore, what our project looked like. So it's about 150-foot wide channel. This is a cross-section looking north. And there's a guide levee on the west side, the channel, a guide levee on the east side. And this project's been around for almost 30 years. The concept has never changed until in 2018, West Shore Lake Pontchartrain got authorized. And at that point in time, we took a little pause. So we were at about a 95% design level. In 2017, we got money from the Deepwater Horizon oil spill to finalize design. We got all ramped up, got our contractors on board, and then West Shore got authorized, which is an awesome thing, right? But we quickly realized that these two projects are next door neighbors. And around that time, we also came to the Corps and said, hey, first of all, we got to cooperate really, really closely. Also, is there a chance we can use the benefits from MARPA as mitigation for West Shore. And we got our the higher ups together, and that process took a couple of years. We for the first time ever made it so the benefits from MARPA can be used as mitigation for West Shore. It took a ton of collaboration. We had to redo a bunch of studies, which no one likes to hear, but in the end of the day, it worked out great. And as Jeff said, we also said, well, look, it's silly to have two contractors in the same spot building the two projects. So the state, and this is the first time ever the state will have built a federal levee, is going to build those reaches of West Shore. So now what we have is, I think this works. Well, let me see. Right. So the West Shore levee is the green. It's 17 miles. This fuchsia is the part of the two projects that are directly adjacent to each other. And then the yellow is kind of the conveyance channel only. So our conveyance channel is about 5.5 miles. The first 2 miles is West Shore and Marpaw directly next to each other. And as I said, we're using some benefits from the project as mitigation for the Corps. So it's kind of like a mitigation bank inside our project. And they're going to be heavily monitoring that to make sure it meets success criteria so they can get credit for the impacts from building the levee. So now, if you remember a few slides ago, we had conveyance channel and guide levee. Now on the west, we have guide levee, conveyance channel. On the east side, the hurricane levee. They are literally the same exact project. Jeff mentioned drainage some. We have a drainage ditch on the west side and on the protected side of the east side. These two ditches, this is a cross section between River Road and Airline Highway. There's going to be two ditches on each side to convey all the surface drainage to Airline Highway. Once it gets there, it's a little tricky. That's where West Shore goes off towards LaPlace. Marpaw goes north into the swamp. But we have worked with the Corps, we've worked with the parish, we've relooked at the models. These two ditches will definitely convey all the surface drainage in those areas north to Airline Highway, just like it always has worked. Everything drains from the river north. And so that's kind of what a cross-section looks like now. As far as the construction timeline, we named our reaches too. Our reaches go 1 through 6. The cores go 1 through 14, but one of us did it backwards apparently. But as Jeff said, the black and white ones are the West Shore reaches. So our reach 1 and 2 is going to be built along with West Shore reach 113. Reach 3 is West Shore 112, and then reach 4 and 5 is West Shore 111. We're currently building reach 6 right now, and us as well. We'll be done with everything in 2008. So just a little bit of what to expect. Really, these two projects between Airline and the river are going to be a lot more visible than the work going on in the swamp. So the next couple of years, residents of Garyville Mountain area are going to see a lot of activity. I need to get new contacts, but I'm going to step here so I can read this. So some of the elements on reaches 1 and 2, you have the headworks in the river, a Highway 44 raised. There will not be a gate there. There's a sedimentation basin, railroad crossings, and drainage improvements. Again, the activities are excavating, pile driving, road work, concrete pours, material and equipment, road detours. Reach 3 is pretty easy reach. There's no utilities, there's no infrastructure crossings. So that's just earthen levee and canal work. That's actually the next reach to go to advertise for construction and later this fall. So that's just channel excavation and levee construction and the drainage canals. And then reach 4 and 5 get pretty complex. There's a railroad crossing. There's Airline Highway, which will be a ramp. There's a ton of utilities underground there, some big ones, like 20, 30 inches. So that's going to be a lot going on there. Again, 26 to 2028 is the duration of that. And again, excavation, raises, highways, rail crossings, all that exciting stuff. So, for the next 3 or 4 years, there's going to be a lot of activity in that area. We want to continue these meetings, keep you guys abreast of what's going on. So hope to be seeing you guys a lot in the future. Again, Reach 6 is everything north of Airline Highway. When everything's done, at the end of 2028, there'll be a brand new boat launch on the west side of the channel. So the diversion channel is on the west, the levee's on the east. So just the diversion channel and levee are going to cross Airline Highway just a few hundred yards west of the new Bergerons. So we're going to have a brand new boat launch off Airline Highway into Hope Canal. So this is going north towards the lake. Now you can't go south because there's a bunch of culverts unless you have a really tiny kayak, but the public will be able to access Hope Canal just north of the Airline Highway. Brand new boat launch, better than the one that's there now, but that one is going to be closed for a couple of years during construction. And this is just, I know Mr. Geiger, I think, is here, just a few hundred yards down from his driveway to the west is our access. This is actually Airline Highway right here. So Philway Construction has built a little laydown yard. This road here, this is looking south now. This is that's the Wildlife Fisheries launch, and this is where our excavation of Reach 6 began. So this phase of construction is to widen Hope Canal from just north of Airline all the way to I-10. Here's looking up Hope Canal right now. They grubbed it. They're starting to dredge the channel, and that'll be ongoing for about the next 12 to 14 months. So that's where we are with Maurepas. Apparently I put a question slide here, but we're not doing questions in this forum. We're going to go to the core, CPRA, levy district, or parish tables to interact with you guys face to face. So again, thank you very much for the parish for setting this up. I can't emphasize the importance of us working with the Corps, using it for mitigation. It's a lot of firsts were done. We're working better with the Corps and the levy district now than we ever had before. So it's just the projects are both great projects. They're for different things, but they're working together. So we're happy to be here and teach you guys about them.